Welcome to the show, folks. It is noon, and you know what that means. You've made it this far. You've made it to the end of the holiday week. You're wondering why I have headphones on. Shut up. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. We're going to be breaking down 5 of the biggest stories of this week, including Donald Trump's slush fund, the recent primaries in the GOP, and so much more. And I'm not going to be doing it alone. I am Democratic strategist and Lincoln Square contributor Max Burns. Joining me is the one and only, the DC man about town himself, Brian Karam. Brian, how are you, man?
I'm hanging in there, brother. How you doing?
Oh, day by day, day by day. It's about finally feeling nice in New York, but then you're sort of challenged by the fact that Donald Trump could drone you at any moment. That's a little bit terrifying. And we have so much going on here today. Like the stories that we have are typical Trump craziness. And I'm curious, what stood out most to you this week?
Oh, I don't know. Donald Trump's slush fund's right up there. I guess I'd have to say, and of course, it's just complete coincidence that it's $1.776 billion. 1776. It's just a coincidence that Donald Trump has put together a slush fund for people who he says has been harassed and are victims of lawfare from the U.S. government. I plan to file for some of those funds myself. As
Oh, we're going to get rich, Brian. But we'll dive right into it. But by the way, follow us on YouTube at Lincoln Square Media, Substack at Lincoln Square. Leave some comments in here. We will definitely get to them. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheMaxBurns and tell me how beautiful I am and how great the show is. But let's not waste any more time because Brian and I are about to get rich with Donald Trump's Insurrection Inc. slush fund. Now, as Brian said, this is a $1.776 billion fund that is essentially giving your taxpayer money as cash payouts to anyone who is attacked by the, quote, weaponized government. And really, that just means if you attack police on January 6th, you could be in line for a big payout. Now, this is not as popular as Donald Trump thought it would be. Republicans in Congress today canceling all of their votes in protest of this big bill, mainly because it provides support for people who attack police and makes Republicans look like they're the party of insurrectionists, which they are. Now, Republicans have already attacked this. Republicans are attacking this. Tom Tillis called it stupid today. I think we have a clip of that.
Stupid on stilts.
Why?
Because it will invariably put us in a position where your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars could potentially compensate someone who assaulted a police officer, admitted their guilt, got convicted, got pardoned, and now we're going to pay them for that? That's absurd. The American people are going to reject this out of hand. When you take money from me to give to a purpose that I vehemently disagree with, that's tyranny, and that's what that account is.
Now, Donald Trump has threatened to veto any spending bills that don't include authorization for this. And interestingly, Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, was on the Hill this week, and he tried to butter up senators by saying, don't forget, guys, you can file cash claims too. So be sure to get yourself a piece. Brian, what do you make of all this?
Well, like I said, I think I'll file. I mean, he tried to take away my press pass 3 times. I had to fight him in court. I defeated him 3 times in court. There was a monetary expenditure in doing that. I felt harassed by government. I was a victim of lawfare, how he describes it. But if you really, really, really take a look at the problems of this slush fund insanity, and I mean, it is insanity. I just want to remind everyone that it is more than anything else. According to the one-page memo, probably written by Stephen Miller, the anti-weaponization fund was created to hear and redress claims of Americans who suffered from lawfare and weaponization, defined as, quote, the use of government power to target them for improper and unlawful reasons. I mean, there are a lot of people that that are on Trump's bad side that could use this, and they've been invited. And of course, Todd Blanche is going to assign 5 people to assess this, and that means Donald Trump is going to decide who gets the money. It is a slush fund for the people of January 6th. You have to understand that Trump says and quotes himself as being the source of the funds because he settled a lawsuit with the IRS. Yep. So he's the source of the funds that will be dispersed. Get this, due to him settling a lawsuit he filed as president against the government that he controls and whose actions he objected to that were taken while he was president. And at the end, if you think that's crazy, he has demanded that the IRS issue him and his son's apology, and they can never check any of their taxes. So he wants the government to apologize to itself for what it has done so he can steal money. This whole thing is a grift. The whole thing. I
love that last part.
Trump. Pardon?
I love that last part too. By the way, guys, you can't investigate any of my taxes ever again.
Yeah. The hell with that, because I'm more important than anybody else on the planet. In any other country, if this were happening, we would go, hey, this is an illegitimate government. And the fact of the matter is, our government is an illegitimate government, and we face the brunt of the we should be very introspective of how we got here, because we should blame ourselves. We voted him in. Maybe not we, not you personally, but we.
Enough of us.
Yeah, enough of us that he is now probably the antithesis of democracy on a global scale. And to that point, look at the Reporters Without Borders. For the last 25 years, they've assessed 180 nations across the world for their availability to free press. 25 years ago, when they started that survey, America ranked 17th, and there was consternation because we said, how could the country that Freudian slip showing, the country that has enshrined free speech in its constitution, be 17th? It should be number 1. But today we are 64th, and 50% of the nations across the world fall in the troubled category that aren't free, and we are one of them. And according to the survey, it's part and parcel because of Donald Trump. So he has led the repression of free speech across the globe. He is an existential threat to freedom across the world.
Yeah, and also to my life. I mean, I'm going to join you in filing this. I think we have this. I'm on the White House website, on the White House enemies list of media enemies. This has invited all sorts of nice death threats my way. I consider that to be weaponization, considering these people actually want to use weapons on me.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
I had the death threats too. I mean, they busted out my way. There was one guy that got arrested who was coming to kill me and said he was coming to kill me and Jim Acosta. And so there was, I had to sit there and give a statement to the, Virginia police. All I can tell you is that, or Virginia State Police, all I can tell you is that without a doubt, your threats, my threats, I think we qualify. We should file for the funds. And then
we're going to get a yacht
bar on the beach in Portugal.
Yes, the dream. So that moves us right along to our next story. We want to talk about authoritarianism. Donald Trump's grip on the GOP is tightening. Bill Cassidy in Louisiana this week, now Thomas Massie in Kentucky, both losing their primaries. Massie, of course, on Trump's bad side because he wanted to expose powerful pedophiles. And we know Donald Trump can't have that. Trump also now says he's going to target people like Lauren Boebert, who campaigned for Massie. What does this make for the general election? I mean, you've got the most extreme candidates in a generation now running on the Republican line. Voters don't seem to like it that much, Brian.
Well, we'll see what happens. I know in Kentucky, for example, my sister lives in that district. I know that the chances of the Democrat just increased exponentially because of who they put in the Republican side of events. And I think that Donald Trump is going to find that the farther to the right he goes, the less people will embrace him. I know he claims that 99% of the people, 99.9% of the people in Israel love him, and he could be prime minister in Israel. And I'd say, go, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Go. We'd be happy if you went there. I don't think it bodes well for the fall. But again, that is dependent upon the Democrats finding electable people who don't piss off the middle and the far right. It's the Democrats. I always say we have two parties. One has no heart and one has no head. I hope the Democrats develop a better head for this and say the right things to get the people in office they need to get in office this fall so that you can put a stop to this. And I will say that I do not believe that, everyone who says 25th Amendment or impeach Donald Trump, it's not going to happen if it happens at all until after the midterms. And if it does happen after the midterms, I don't think it'll happen unless they have whipped the votes and know that they've got the votes in the Senate for conviction. And at that point in time, and here will be the turning point, if any time after the November election and before the new government is seated in the 20th of January in 2027, during that time, if the Speaker of the House, Michael, I've never had a date in my life, Johnson, and whoever is the House, the Senate Majority Leader at the time, if they replace him, whoever it is, if they go to the White House and we end up seeing them in an expanded, we get what's called guidance, what's going to happen in the White House every day. And sometimes when there's new stuff in his schedule, they update the guidance. So if we get in guidance or in an updated guidance, the fact that the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader are coming to visit the president on that day, that will be the day that they have gone to tell him what Barry Goldwater told Nixon, and that is, you're screwed, blued, and tattooed, and you're going to have to resign. Now, I think you'll have to show up with a crowbar and a handful of sedatives to pry Donald Trump out of that office. But I do believe that would be the tell. Either that, or if you have, Todd Blanche, who is out of his depth in a mud puddle, if he shows up doing it, then we'll know the same thing.
And this is, great, I guess, for Trump. He's getting his way. All the people he dislikes are gone. But it's actually shifting. That's those Senate races, as you mentioned. In Texas, the polling now after he endorsed Ken Paxton over John Cornyn. And Ken Paxton, even most Cornyn Republicans hate him. Polling now showing James Tallarico, the Democrat, likely to pick up that seat. Now, every time I come on here, I say I do not believe in blue Texas. But it's making me start to believe, Brian.
Well, I have lived in Texas, and it's not Lloyd Doggett is from Texas, and he's as liberal as they come. Texas is not, although they love their guns, and I mean, buddy, they love their guns, and there ain't no doubt about they love their guns, but they are not as racist or as red as they would have, as many people would believe. In fact, many Texans are right smack dab in the middle of the political spectrum on many issues. And I think that you're going to find that if the Democrats can appeal to them, they'll go there. Many Hispanic voters, many female voters, many white male voters are fed up with Donald Trump and the extreme right. But you just can't be, what they call the cancel culture and the wokeness. You just tone that down a little bit. And you might do well in Texas.
Well, here's to hoping. I love Texas. I got in a bar fight in Amarillo once. It was the most Texas thing ever, believe it or not. But enough about that. Let's move on to the next big thing. Brian, you've gone to the movies, my friend. Tell us all about it.
The Cannes Film Festival, and the name of it's the First 100, and it is a documentary on the first 100 days of the new Donald Trump administration. Beginning when he came into power 17 months ago. And we show how those first 100 days will have far-reaching effects for the next 100 years. And everything that we're seeing and we're going through right now happened because of what happened during the first 100 days of this Trump administration. And it screened out of competition in Cannes I was very happy with the result of those who saw it and those who
how was the response?
Overwhelmingly in favor of it, and surprised that someone did it because they were afraid that in the United States that no one would have the guts to do it. So I was happy to have put it together and happy that people saw it as I saw it. And it's what was really encouraging was that people outside of the United States get it. They understand what the problem is in our country. And it was good
Yeah.
to talk with people who do understand. Even, and I got to tell you, Max, even former Trump supporters, real hardcore. I ran into one or two real hardcore MAGA members who can't stand him because he promised two things that he promised: no new wars and exposing the Epstein files. That he's lied about both. They realize that. And by the way, nobody believes the economy's better except Donnie. And so those three reasons have really pissed off and soured his former followers, which is good to see.
Nice. So what is next for this documentary? Where do you go from here?
Well, we're in right now. We're in the festival circuit, so it'll be, and then we have some private screenings. We're going to schedule one in L.A., one in Chicago, one in New York. We had one in D.C. And we in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, we had the very first private screening to about 250 people, and that was really enjoyable too. Everyone who's seen it has enjoyed it, which makes my heart feel good because this has been a labor of love for me, just trying to get the information out and tie everything together, because you get so swept away with Donald Trump. Every day it's just an unending barrage of nonsense, and trying to connect the dots and show how things have gone and where we are and how we got there, to me has been the most challenging of any president I've ever covered. And I've covered them all since Reagan.
And it's so refreshing because we've seen sort of a drop in using the media as a watchdog tool, using documentary film. It's been a while since a good political documentary film about current events has come out.
Yeah.
And is the response you're getting from people in America? Are you planning on having a White House screening? Just tell Trump it's about him. He'd love it.
I would love to have a White House screening of this. And then afterwards, I would probably further be able to file for some of those slush fund dollars. But I don't think Donnie would. I'm having a hard time getting Donnie to let me in the White House right now. So I doubt that he would love to. I'm telling you, a tough room. I don't think he'd let me in there. Hey, I'm just saying.
So before we move on, I do want to ask, what about this? Did anything surprise you in producing it? Did you meet any challenges? I mean, did you run into any threats when people found out you were making something critical of a guy who loves to punish his enemies?
The people I spoke with varied from big fans of Donald's, and I spoke to rank and file members. I tried to keep the normal talking heads out of this, because I wanted to show a grassroots, where people were in the grassroots supporting or not supporting Donald. So the usual suspects don't make a real much of an appearance in this, except through news clips. But I will say that I find that people did not push back against me putting it together. They were surprised at where it went. And I was as surprised as anyone as to where this has gone. And we sat a week before the inauguration on a podcast. It was me and attorney Mark Zaid and the chief White House correspondent from CQ Roll Call, John Bennett. And we were discussing what we predicted would go on. And Bennett was very chilling and had probably the most accurate prediction of anyone when he said, how long will it be before they find that this immigration policy is flawed and a citizen is shot and killed, or a child. And just very chilling that you could see it if you stepped back from it and looked at what was going on and didn't listen to the rhetoric. We should have known where this is going to go once he said it. And to have people put it into words, Michael Cohen said, what if he's successful? Then Trump will outshine the Constitution. Well, he has, and he has subjugated the Constitution. And so there are people that came out and said this, beforehand. And it's frightening to me how easy it was to see, and how few people didn't want to see it. There were people who Michelle Obama said not everyone that voted for Donald Trump was a racist. Many people felt that they just hadn't been heard. And you could see that that's true, but you can also see that there is a responsibility there that these people have because they projected into Donald what they wanted. They didn't listen to him. Many MAGA members thought this is our guy because he's listening to us. What they forgot, and what this documentary and what reality shows, is that Donald Trump listened to us to grift us, because that's who he is.
And speaking of unrealistic fantasies about things that are actually terrible, that brings us to the next big story, the Iran war heating back up. You thought it was over? We thought we had a ceasefire. Donald Trump said that there's been peace 10 or 15 times. Apparently not. And we have a clip, so let's open up with that.
Come to pause a few times. Has there come a point where no longer going to be a
I'm not doing this politically. I'm doing, look, everyone tells me it's unpopular, but I think it's very popular. When they hear that it's having to do with...
Everyone tells me it's bad, but it's actually going great. And we saw this week new reports now, the supreme leader in Iran saying that they will reject the U.S.'s request to take control of their uranium. They said that's going to stay in Iran. Now talking with Oman and other countries in the region about potentially putting in a permanent toll on the Strait of Hormuz. And also reports coming out that the weapons that were destroyed in the initial attack have largely been restored, that the military-industrial base in Iran has been mostly rebuilt. Their drone capacity is back. Their anti-aircraft capacity is back. Which raises the question, Brian, what was all this for?
Well, that's a question we've been asking since why are we there? And I'll remind everyone that and let me just backtrack a little bit and say, Donald Trump, the Congress left for Christmas, adjourned for Christmas, without taking up affordable health care while they have free health care for life and get paid for life. Then you had the presidential PEP secretary 3 weeks ago say she was going on maternity leave, paid maternity leave, which millions of Americans cannot get. So the haves, they can get what they want, and the rest of us are screwed. So after the PEP secretary, and I can't call her press secretary because all she needs is a set of pom-poms, and she's, at a pep rally. She's gone. And who's the first person they have? Why? It's little Marco Rubio. Remember Marco Rubio? This is a story about Marco Rubio. Little Marco Rubio shows up, and Eddie is wearing, 5 hats in the Donald Trump administration. Now he's added press secretary to it, and I think he's also the Uber driver on Sundays for Donald. Anyway, Marco shows up in the White House, and what does he say that he wants out of this, out of the ceasefire? And I quote you pretty much, he said, bottom line, we just want things to go back to the way they were. Well, they were the way they were when they were the way they were. Why did you start the damn war? Iran didn't have control of the strait before the war. Donald Trump said he obliterated their entire Army, Navy, and apparently a girls' school at least 3 or 4 times. I mean, he sent B-2 bombers, completely obliterated. Then he had to start the war because they were a week or 2 weeks or a month away from building a nuclear weapon that they hadn't been able to build in 60 years since the nuclear era began. Then he completely obliterated it again. He's completely obliterated the Navy, but they have fast boats that are blockading the Strait of Hormuz, so we blockaded their blockade. Why? Well, of course, we all know that it was to deflect from the Epstein files, and because Donald Trump is growing feeble, mentally incapacitated, and there are people inside of his administration who are using whatever to promote their own self-interest and to try and keep Donald Trump afloat because that is in their interest. The bottom line is there was no reason, there was no imminent danger, there was no reason to start this war. There was, and he cannot define how it ends other than he wants it back the way it was. Well, he does say no nuclear weapon, but a reminder for everyone, it took Barack Obama 20 months and 6 different countries to negotiate a deal with Iran that included them not building a nuclear weapon, and international inspectors were on the scene to inspect Iran, and our own military said they did not have the capacity to build a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump canceled that policy. So now why wouldn't Iran build a nuclear weapon? Because that is what is guaranteeing the survival of North Korea being a part of the nuclear club. knowing full well that if you attack them, it could lead to nuclear annihilation somewhere. So Donald Trump has given them a victory. There's nobody more on the side of the mullahs and the far extremists in Iran than Donald Trump.
But at least, Brian, at least we control the Strait of Hormuz. Isn't that right, Marco Rubio?
Yeah, well, give me a break.
The allies on getting the Strait of Hormuz fully back up and running, and have
no, I would be pretty ambitious to be able to open the straits at this meeting here today, but I can tell.
Oh, oops. Never mind. I guess we don't control the strait anymore.
Well, they blockaded it. We blockaded it. They blockaded it. And meanwhile, Russian oligarchs are getting in and out of the strait, as are Chinese tankers, apparently. So who's not getting in and out of the strait? Give me a break. He says most of our oil, we don't need the strait. The rest of the world does. Well, yeah, actually, we still do need it because we get, propane gas and other stuff out of there, and helium and all kinds of other things that go through the strait. So Donald Trump is lying to us again.
Shocking. And that brings us to our last story of the day, that the lies aren't working anymore. Donald Trump's polling is in an absolute tailspin. There is an ARG poll out. He's at 31% popularity nationally, 25% among independents, which is lower than Richard Nixon at the end of his term. And get this, according to this Fox News poll that we're showing you some clips of here, only 54% of non-MAGA Republicans approve of the job Donald Trump is doing. Just barely half of non-MAGA Republicans. And 77% say the economy's bad. Only 16% of Americans say they're doing better than a year ago. In other words, this is the golden age, Brian. We did it.
Yeah, the golden age is here. No one has ever done it better. I should be on Mount Rushmore. I'm building my arch. See ya. Well, first of all, 54% of non-MAGA Republicans, I didn't know there were any of them still left. But that's maybe
that's
7
a fair
or 8.
Point.
But to the bigger point being, the numbers are so low.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump can't admit that they are so low. That's the true measure of how bad this is. Donald Trump cannot admit how low his numbers are. Instead, he tells us, I've got 99% of the people in Israel love me. So he wants to go. I mean, go ahead. Like I said, go to Israel, be their prime minister. He said that about Venezuela. Meanwhile, the people in the United States that he's lied to continuously know better at this point, because while even MAGA members may love him, they can tell when they go to the store that their price is higher than the time before.
Yeah.
And quoting Paul McCartney. So damn well that they know that their money isn't going as far as it used to be. And when Donald Trump says that Wall Street is better than it's ever been, whoopee shit, excuse my foul language. Most Americans aren't in the stock market. It is controlled and rigged by large companies, and it has no bearing on what the actual economy looks like. And our actual economy looks like this. If you are of a working class, if you still exist, and you're not the working poor and you're the middle class, chances are that you not only have one job, but 2 or 3 side gigs. In order to pay the rent, make sure your children have food on the plate, and you can afford the health care that Donald Trump gets for free. So, yes, there is a huge problem in the United States. And so when Scott Bessent came into the Brady briefing room a couple of weeks ago and told us that the real reason for the squeezing out immigrants was so there would be jobs open for Americans, because Americans want another job and want to work overtime, that tells you how out of touch Donald Trump and his regime actually are. We don't want to work anymore. We want to be able to make a living wage from one job, put our kids through school, and pay for health insurance that you get for free. We're all willing to suffer through affordable health care while you get the free health care and you get the maternity leave. But damn it, quit treating us as if we are slaves. The real battle in this country is between the haves and the have-nots. And every day, those 12 billionaires that work with Donald Trump in his White House show the rest of us exactly how out of touch they are when they try to tell us how great life is in the United States, when obviously it isn't. And it only takes, the one thing I learned from Ken, Max, the one thing I took away was once you get out of the U.S., and not everybody can afford to do that. Not everybody can get out of this country and look back out from under that dome of ineptitude. When you get out there and you see it for as it really is, you realize how bad we really have it. We are, and we're struggling to be a first world nation. We're struggling with that now. In many ways, we're a third world nation. And that is so disheartening. And there are people in Europe, people who say, look, it's not that I hate Americans. They love Americans and they love our culture, but they're afraid and fearful of what Donald Trump has become and where he has taken this country. And we put him there.
Yes, and Donald Trump certainly wondering why Democrats are outperforming by 30 points in the recent elections. Just look at that $8 a pound hamburger and that $5 a gallon gas, and hey, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
But eggs are so good. We have the best eggs.
And that is our show, folks. There is a lot covering here. Let us know if you're going to file for some weaponization of government money. We want to see all of our viewers getting rich. You have been listening to It's the End of the Week. I've been Max Burns, your host here. You follow me on Twitter at @TheMaxBurns. Follow Lincoln Square on YouTube at Lincoln Square Media, on Substack at Lincoln Square. I've been joined by the great Brian Karam. Brian, tell people how they can find you.
Well, wherever fine books are sold, you'll find Free the Press. Wherever fine podcasts are sold, it's Just Ask the Question or Just Ask the Press. Also on YouTube, Twitter. Like everybody else these days, I'm freaking everywhere. And then the documentary is at the at festivals, and we'll have that available for the general public this summer. So if you need me, you can find me. I always tell people, Google me. It's all there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate you. Love your show. Here anytime you need me.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. As always, give us a follow. Lincoln Square Media on YouTube and Lincoln Square on Substack. The Indianapolis 500 is this weekend, and it's more like $500 a tank for most Americans. But we'll be back next week, assuming the country's still here, with more It's the End of the Week. Thanks.